All right, guys. Old man shouting at clouds time. Now, this is a fun one today because this is actually a topic you guys requested, Sam specifically. And it is how to deal with jerks. This is an important one. I'm actually kind of surprised I didn't come up with this myself, but it's an important life lesson. Now, what sparked this conversation um, I have some doubts about. So we'll start with the context, right? So uh, we're not going to name names, but one of my children came home complaining about a teacher, and yeah, we don't really need to get into the details there, but the like, if you were to take the 30,000 foot view, this teacher was being a jerk. Okay. Let's give you guys the benefit of the doubt and assume that your teacher actually was being a jerk, which I'm going to provide some caveats here. Seen the way you guys behave at home. I wouldn't be shocked if your behavior had something to do with the way your teacher's treating you. But let's table that for a second. Let's assume you were the model of good behavior in this class and that your teacher really is just being a jerk to you. It happens. And by the way, teaching is like any other profession, okay? There are people who are elite at that job, and man, are they undervalued. Like those, I mean, I think a lot of really outstanding teachers do get recognized, and the parents appreciate them, and the students appreciate them, and the students remember them 20 years later. I still have teachers I remember from when I was in high school, middle school, elementary school that were outstanding teachers. Shout out Miss Colin. That was my second grade teacher. I still remember her. I'd still remember her if I saw her. Now, granted, our families kind of knew each other too, but she was like salt of the earth kind of person, born to be a teacher, super, super patient. And there's no shortage of these teachers. Mr. Putnam made me love history. Not an easy job. Um, so we do remember those people, but in terms of compensation, I think we could all agree that elite teachers should be paid way more than they're paid. Um, but I digress. There are also teachers who are just average, right? No shame in that. We can't all be elite. And okay, if life's a bell curve, you got the people 1 to 2 standard deviations in the positive direction. You're going to have people 1 to 2 standard deviations in the negative direction. Okay. There are going to be teachers who aren't great at their job. There are going to be teachers who do not have the temperament for that job, but they end up doing it anyway. And guess what? It's probably getting harder and harder and harder to find people who are willing to be teachers these days. So buckle up. You might see more of those people. It can be a very thankless job. I mean, would you want to deal with a bunch of kids all day, every day? I certainly don't. I didn't sign up for that profession for that reason. And also the comp structure. Yikes. Not that you can't make a respectable income, but life's getting significantly more expensive. See many of my other videos, and it's getting harder and harder to make it on a teacher's salary. So that's, why I didn't go into that profession. But yeah, like there are going to be teachers, and I had some of them, not going to name names on that end of the spectrum, but I had some teachers who were ill-suited to that profession. Now, probably they were perfectly fine at teaching as long as every kid sat still and listened all the time, which sounds like very, very few kids that I know. Now, I'm going to share some of my life experience, okay? When I look back on my time in school and the teachers that I disliked the most, where I'm 100% certain the feeling was mutual, they would have been more than happy to see me move out of this state. But when I look back at that, do I still today, as an adult, feel like those teachers behaved inappropriately? Not like inappropriately in a weird way, but like that their attitude, their approach to handling me was suboptimal. Yeah, I do. Still to this day, I don't think they did me any favors. I think there was probably a way they could have engaged with me where we both would have gotten a better result. But I will also be the first to admit I didn't help things either, okay? My behavior, my attitude, the way I approached things in the class made that teacher's life significantly more difficult. And some of the behaviors that I was exhibiting, I think, are just kind of like within a standard deviation of normal for boys. But there were times where I was definitely more disruptive than even the average boy was. So that's on me. Now, there were teachers who could deal with that, and they handled it much, much better than others. And in those classes, I didn't have that many problems, and I got my work done. That I would listen better to the teacher when they were like, okay, dude, time to pump the brakes. Like, we get it. You want to be the class clown. Haha, everybody had a laugh. Can we bring it back to the topic? And that approach worked better for me. But the teachers that, anytime I made any comment at all, it's like, write me up, send me to the office. Yeah, I butted heads more with those teachers. It was very counterproductive the way they handled it. But that brings me to my point, which is there's no avoiding those people in life, okay? They're impossible to avoid. They're everywhere. You'll find them at fast food restaurants. You'll find them at your job someday. You'll find them when you're checking out with your groceries. You'll find them when you call customer support. You'll find them when you go to pay your taxes. Like, anywhere. They are everywhere. There's no profession, there's no subset of the population that has the cornerstone on jerks, and there's no subset of the population that has no jerks. They're everywhere. So you can either spend your whole life getting mad at the injustice of having to deal with them, or you can figure out how to deal with them and at least not make the situation worse than it's going to be anyway. Okay? Some people do just want to spread their misery to other people. Okay? Some people are just unhappy, they're pessimistic, and they want everyone to be as miserable as they are. Okay. Well, you guess what? There's a really, really important thought process. And this extends beyond dealing with jerks, okay? This is just kind of dealing with adversity and stress. But there's a really good technique that it should be somewhat obvious, but I had to hear it in a podcast for it to really crystallize in my mind, which is there's kind of a stoic fork of tactics you can use, which is you can go one way or you can go the other way. The question to ask yourself is, can I do anything about this? Okay? Can you change this person? Well, I'm going to guess as a 10, 12, 14-year-old kid, no, you probably aren't going to change them. Okay? They're an adult. They're pretty much who they are at this point, short of some life-altering event happening to them. They're pretty much going to be who they are now. And you as a kid are unlikely to have much impact on that. So the answer to the question, can you change someone who's a jerk as an adult, is almost certainly no. Okay? Trained professionals maybe could have some impact, but you probably won't. So then if you can't do anything about it, should you spend a lot of time worrying about it? I would argue you shouldn't, okay? You should worry about things that are within your sphere of control. So things you can do something about, okay? Now, there actually are some things you can do. Thing one would be don't antagonize them even further, okay? It might make you feel good in that exact second to really stick it to them, but guess what? They're the teacher in the classroom. They're the dictator of that country, okay? You stick it to them, air quotes, maybe you feel good for 2 seconds until you figure out what the consequence is gonna be for that, which is probably them contacting your parents, which is gonna get you in trouble because now you've just made my life more difficult. Uh, it's my point is it's not gonna be worth it. What you're going to get out of that is not going to be worth what it costs you, okay? Because now if you, air quotes, stuck it to them and it felt good to you for a second, but you get in trouble, guess what? Now that person's going to like you even less. Now, maybe they already didn't like you, but they're going to like you even less. And now they're really going to have it out for you. Okay? Because even if they had it out for you to begin with, you didn't really do anything to justify it. It's harder for them to maintain that level of spite if you're like the model of good behavior. You know what I mean? It's harder for them to find an excuse to take it out on you. If you're just serving them up excuses on a tee, you're making their life easy. If they want to make your life miserable, you're handing them golden opportunities to do so. Why? If you know they already don't like you, just almost be invisible. You know what I mean? Like you can get through it. It's a year. Worst case scenario. Okay? Believe me, it gets harder as life goes on. Imagine your boss is a jerk. What do you do about that? That's a tough problem. You can't avoid them. You need their approval to continue to make a living. Now, you could go get a different job, and that's probably what you should do in that case. But you're kind of stuck with them until then. Like, for you, worst case scenario, you're out of that class at the end of the year. You can live with that. And for most of these situations, now it is a little different depending on what age you are. If you're younger, you tend to spend more time with one teacher. Whereas like once you get into high school, most of the teachers you only have them for one subject. And then you're out of that class. So it's like an hour a day you have to deal with this person. Come on, suck it up. You can deal with almost anything for an hour. So that's a really important lesson to learn, is that sometimes you do just kind of have to swallow your pride in life. And no matter how much you'd like to say something, you just shouldn't. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. And Sam, I know you're going to have a harder time learning that lesson than anyone else, because man, do you have a hard time biting your tongue when there's something you want to say. And I get it. I'm the same way too, but it is an important skill to learn because your mouth can dig you your grave if you're not careful. And yeah, I just, you're going to end up creating way more problems for yourself than it's worth. So learning how to deal with those people is unavoidable, okay? And you can either make yourself just as miserable as they are by trying to fight fire with fire, or you can just realize that's a battle you're not going to win and refuse to fight it, okay? That there's a famous saying, turn the other cheek, right? Somebody smacks you across the face, turn the other cheek, right? Like you're not going to make things better by fighting fire with fire. You're just not, okay? I've used this analogy with you guys before, but like the bully on the playground. Generally speaking, if they're harassing you and you say something back to them, it only adds fuel to the fire. If you just ignore them in most cases, eventually it kind of takes the sport out of it for them. They're looking for a reaction. So if you don't give them one, you're not giving them what they want. Now, there are some bullies who aren't going to stop there. They're not going to be satisfied with that. And if words aren't enough to get your attention, they'll get physical with you. Now, am I suggesting you should get physical back? No. Okay? Getting physical should be the last resort. What you should do is get an adult and get them to step in and stop that behavior, okay? But if they're unwilling, if there are no adults who are willing to put an end to this, I've told you guys this myself, you got a green light from me. they put their hands on you and there's no other way to solve this problem, you've tried every other option. You've tried running away. You've tried getting a teacher. You've tried, telling the recess monitor. You've tried all of the things and they still won't stop, and there's no way out of the situation. You got my permission to slug them, but you better make sure it works. Like if the kid's 6 inches taller than you and 40 pounds heavier, that's maybe not a fight you're going to win. You better be ready for the return if it comes. But yeah, like the point is, I hope that's not your takeaway, is that, oh, Dad said it's okay to punch bullies. No. Only under very, very, very limited circumstances. So the point of all of this is you have to learn how to just not rise to the harassment that a jerk is going to give you in life. Like, you're going to run into them. You need to learn coping strategies for how to deal with these people, because you're going to run into them in every area of your life, right? You're going to run into them in elementary school. You're going to run into them in middle school. You're going to run into them in high school. You'll run into them in college. You'll run into them at your job. You'll run into them in sports. You just have to learn how to deal with them. And rising to every antagonism they offer you is not the answer. The answer is brush it off. Don't let them get to you. That's what they're after. Find a way, and this is a great practice in life in general, to not dwell on that. There are way, 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 way more nice, decent human beings in life. Focus on those people. Give them your attention. Dismiss the crap that comes from the jerks. Okay? You'll thank me for that one if you can figure this out, because it is a tough lesson. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy when somebody is pushing every single one of your buttons to not let it get to you. I struggle with this too, okay? When people are pushing my buttons, it's hard for me to not react, but it never works out well when you do, okay? So, like, even if you feel justified, even if you feel like you had every right to react, it still doesn't get you anywhere. So the best option is just to figure out how to ignore it, make the best of the situation, and then at the end of the day, people around you, believe me, will recognize that you took the high road, and they'll respect that. So find a way to do that as often as you possibly can, and to the greatest possible extent, avoid reacting to the jerks. Okay? I hope that helps. I love you very much. Talk to you next time.